Welcome and thanks for joining me. Today, we're diving deep into a difficult but really powerful truth that real, meaningful personal growth is just impossible without some discomfort. All right, let's get right into it. So, let's kick things off with a statement that, well, it might sting a little. It might feel a bit uncomfortable. And that feeling, that's actually a good thing. That little bit of a sting is often the very first sign that we've hit on something real, something true. So, that feeling of discomfort, that's exactly what we're going to unpack. Because it's not a stop sign telling you to turn away. It's more like a signpost pointing you toward what's been holding you back, and more importantly, how you can finally start moving forward. Okay, first up, let's get a proper diagnosis of the problem. And the root issue, really, it isn't that you lack goals or ambition. No, it's something way more subtle. It's the deceptive trap of getting too comfortable with our own low standards. This right here is such a powerful idea. See, we all have these big, inspiring goals, and we think they're gonna pull us up, right? But the hard truth is, you don't rise to your goals. You actually fall to the level of your standards. What you're willing to put up with from yourself day in and day out, that's what really sets your ceiling. And this is where it gets really interesting. When you break down the difference between goals and standards. Goals, they live in your imagination. They're what you hope for. They feel amazing and inspiring. But standards, they live in your daily behavior. They're all about what you tolerate. And they require enforcement, which isn't always fun, but it's what's happening right now, today. And man, that's the real kicker, isn't it? Every little thing you let slide, every small compromise, it isn't harmless. It's a rehearsal. It's practice. You are quietly, but actively training yourself for the future you're going to live in. Okay, so that's the what of the problem. Now let's dig into the why. What's the psychology behind this comfort trap? How does it actually work inside our heads and make us put up with less than our best? This brings us to a really fundamental question about how we operate, right? If we know our standards are too low, if we know what we should be doing, why do we keep tolerating the very things that make us weaker? Why is there such a huge gap between knowing and doing? And here it is, the core insight. Procrastination, it's not about being lazy. It is not a character flaw. It is emotional avoidance. Think about that for a second. You're not actually avoiding the task. You're avoiding the uncomfortable feeling that the task brings up, like boredom, frustration, uncertainty, maybe even the fear of failure. For most of our lives, we've been wired to see discomfort as a threat, like a red flag telling us to stop and retreat. But what if that's completely backwards? What if discomfort isn't a signal to stop, but a signal to stay present? An invitation to lean in and actually pay attention to what's happening. All right, so if the problem is that we're avoiding feelings, what's the antidote? Well, it's about building a system for your behavior that doesn't depend on whether you feel like it on any given day. We've all been there, right? We make rules for ourselves. I'm gonna wake up early this week. I'm gonna work out 3 times. But rules, well, rules can be broken. And as soon as we feel a little tired, a little unmotivated, that inner negotiation starts. And let's be honest, that negotiation almost always ends with us choosing comfort. But here's the big shift. What if it wasn't a rule? What if it was just part of your identity? Because your identity, that's enforced automatically. When a behavior becomes part of who you fundamentally are, the internal debate just stops. You don't negotiate with your identity. And this comparison just lays it out so perfectly. I'm trying to wake up early. That invites negotiation. It completely depends on your mood. But a statement like, I don't wake up late, that's totally different. That ends the negotiation before it even starts. It's not about what you're trying to do. It's about who you are. So you see how this works? Identity-based standards are a total game changer. They remove the need for that internal debate. Suddenly, motivation isn't a requirement anymore, it's just a nice bonus. And you earn this new identity bit by bit through small, consistent actions until that behavior goes from feeling like a real effort to just instinct. Okay, so how do we actually build this new identity? That's the next piece of the puzzle. Because here's the thing, you can't just declare a new identity with words. It has to be forged, and it's forged through action. And this brings us to what might be the single most damaging lie we tell ourselves: I'll move when I feel ready. So many of us are stuck in that trap, just waiting to feel motivated or confident or clear before we actually take action. But the psychological reality, it's the exact opposite. The old way is to wait for your feelings to change.
right? You wait to feel good, and then you'll act. It just leads to endless delay. The new way flips that script entirely. You act first. And then, as a result of that action, the feelings start to change. Clarity, confidence, motivation. They aren't things you need to start. They are the result of starting. Action creates the very feelings you thought you were waiting for.
But what about the really hard days? You know the ones, where you feel like you have absolutely nothing in the tank. Well, on those days, the goal isn't excellence. The goal is just to protect your momentum. It's about acknowledging, okay, I have low energy today, without judging yourself. Then just identify one essential task, the bare minimum. You execute it imperfectly. The quality doesn't matter. What matters is that you protect the chain. You don't let a bad day erase all your progress. And this idea is so important. Doing something poorly is infinitely better than doing nothing perfectly. Our inner perfectionist loves to tell us, if you can't do it right, don't bother doing it at all. And what does that lead to? Doing nothing. This simple rule, it keeps you in the game, especially when your emotions are screaming at you to just give up for the day. So finally, let's put all these pieces together and talk about the transformation, how this all leads to forging a new, more resilient identity for yourself. I love this quote because it just frames the choice so clearly. In every moment, you're faced with two kinds of pain. There's the pain of discipline, which feels sharp, for sure, but it's brief. And then there's the pain of regret, which is this dull, aching, endless thing. And we're always choosing one or the other. And this is maybe the most critical reframing of all. Choosing discomfort isn't about punishing yourself. It's not about being harsh on yourself for no reason. It is a profound act of self-respect. Every single time you choose to do the hard thing, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. You're proving to yourself over and over that you are someone who can be trusted to follow through. And so I'll leave you with this question to think about. Because in the end, it all comes down to this. Once you stop negotiating with yourself, once you draw a line in the sand and decide what you will simply no longer tolerate from yourself, you stop just hoping for a different future. You start actively deciding who you're becoming. And that right there, that changes absolutely everything.